C'est un coup d'intérêt.
Pour 20 minutes à peu près.
Ouais.
20 minutes plus une question, je pense.
Ouais. Combien de personnes? C'est bon.
Hi everyone, good evening to everybody. Welcome to this AXA Climate webinar. We will discuss today tropical cyclone risks and parametric insurance. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you will enjoy this 20-25 minutes with us for this first webinar of parametric insurance. So today we have Christelle with us. Christelle, you are a nat cat modeler. You are a climate risk specialist. You hold a PhD degree in meteorology from Florida State University, and you are an expert on tropical cyclone. We have also Maxime Derobe. Hello. Hello, Maxime. Maxime, you are a data scientist, and you are a senior underwriter at AXA Climate, and you will give us your focus on cyclone protection parametric cover. So thank you for being there. I'm heading the business development at AXA Climate, and I'm happy to have you two guys for this first webinar. So just to start, we will give you some focus on AXA Climate. We are the AXA entity dedicated to climate risk. We have locations in London, in Paris, in Singapore, in Shanghai, and we write only parametric insurance related to climate risk. What we mean by climate risk, we mean rainfalls, we mean earthquake, we mean, of course, tropical cyclones, we mean hail, frost, all of those events that causes damages to company and are related with the climate. So the agenda today is to talk on tropical cyclone. First, Christelle will talk us about the phenomena of tropical cyclone. Then we will see with Maxime how parametric insurance can answer to this phenomena. So let's start by the meteorologist, the specialist. Christelle, if you talk about the tropical cyclone, my friends are located all over the world and they say, well, it's hurricane, it's typhoons, it's tropical cyclone. Is the same phenomenon?
Yes, indeed, François, it's the same phenomenon. It depends on which tropical basin you're looking at. So hurricanes will be located in North Atlantic and East Pacific. Then you will have tropical cyclone over the South Indian and the South Pacific Ocean, and also typhoon in Asia. So as you can see from that risk map, the tropical cyclone occur mostly over warm ocean water in the tropics. It requires a few ingredients to develop, so you'll have to have warm ocean water, the Coriolis parameter that's stronger, a little bit outside of the equator, and then some instability in the atmosphere and a low wind shear. So you will have a tropical season that starts in a tropical cyclone season that starts in June over the northern hemisphere until November, and in the southern hemisphere will be November to April.
Okay, in 2019, has the world suffered from tropical cyclone?
So I'm giving you here some example of category 3 and higher hurricane, and you can look at over Japan, for instance. We had a very strong typhoon, Aegis, hitting Japan. It caused between 10 and 13 billion insured losses. And you remember lots of business interruption during the World Cup, the Rugby World Cup. There was also...
this is probably the reason why the French didn't win the Rugby World Cup.
I think so. Then there was lots of inundated area and floods, so 25,000 hectares were underwater, as you can see in the picture. There was over 13,000 homes destroyed or partially destroyed, and 1 billion agriculture loss just for this.
Big impact on the economy.
Yes, indeed. Then moving to the Bahamas, we'll have in mind Dorian in September that destroyed parts of the island. It was a very strong Category 5 hurricane that had never been seen before in the area, with a sustained wind of 298 kilometers per hour. And also that tropical cyclone stalled over the island, creating lots of damage. It moved at 2 kilometers per hour for 12 hours in the island. So there was lots of rainfall.
Crystal, you are a hurricane specialist, but I'm not. What does Cat 5 mean?
So Category 5 is in the Saffir-Simpson scale, and it is the most powerful hurricane that can be occurring in this area.
Okay, and so Debbie was Cat 4. It means that Debbie was less impacting than Dorian.
It was a Category 4 in the BOEM category scale. There was sustained winds of 264 kilometers per hour, so a little bit less. It created heavy rainfall over 1,000 millimeters in 48 hours over the Fitzroy Basin, which had never been seen before. And it also created damages that the second place in Australia after Tracy in '74. So, and the first place in damage over Queensland. So it was a very strong.
These are 3 examples, and very recent examples. We've all heard about climate change and global warming. How will this affect this phenomenon?
So we view risk as a combination of exposure, meaning where people live, their vulnerability, how the houses and businesses are built, and the hazard. And tropical cyclones, climate change will affect tropical cyclone, the hazard part of the tropical cyclone, and that's what I tried to explain in a quick summary here. There was a report by the IPCC on ocean and the cryosphere that just came out. So from the latest from this latest report, if you move to the next slide, you can see that there is going to be the tropical cyclone intensity affected by global warming. Also, a warmer atmosphere related to global warming can hold more moisture, so that will increase the precipitation amount from the tropical cyclones. There is also a sea level rise, and the latest research show that about 300 million people will fall under yearly flood events by 2050. So this is huge, and storm surge from a tropical cyclone will affect this population first. There are
so basically, global warming links to more water in the air and more precipitation.
Exactly.
And it will increase the intensity of tropical cyclones. What about the wind? What about the wind speed?
Yes, the intensity is also, like most research shows that the intensity should increase by 1 to 10%. There is still lots of uncertainties, but this is the state-of-the-art research with the latest models called ocean atmosphere models. And the acceleration of the motion of tropical cyclone is going also to decrease. It already showed that 10% decrease they decrease globally by 10%. So the tropical cyclone will move slower, so the precipitation falling from this tropical cyclone will cause more flooding risk.
Flooding risk, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there will be also a shift in the maximum intensity of those tropical cyclones, meaning that there will be new places exposed to those very high tropical cyclone wind speeds in the future.
But in the same area that are hurricanes, typhoons, and tropical cyclones today, or is it possible that we'll see tropical cyclone in Paris affecting the Eiffel Tower?
This is a really good question. I think the tropical cyclone, they do transition to other kind of windstorm events, and those events can occur in our latitudes.
Like flood in our latitude, where
Yes.
we are affected by flood in France today, in different regions. Okay, very clear. Thank you, Christelle. What about the impact on economic sector?
Okay, so here I wrote 3 economic sectors that are mostly affected by tropical cyclones. You have obviously the tourism industry with all the beach area activities and hotels. For instance, Dorian, there was a decrease by 20% of the tourism business because of Dorian in the Bahamas, so it's huge for such a small island. There is physical damage and business interruption to this industry related to the sector. Then you have the agriculture sector. There was, for instance, Irma in Florida that caused a 50% loss in the citrus industry in Florida. Here I wrote down some more figure, but for instance, Debbie also caused a 20% loss in crop,
So you have
in Australia.
You have the direct impact of the wind plus the flood.
Precipitation and storm surge also with salt water.
Salt water going to the fields and yes, and it's need time to have a field.
And then you also have the transmission and distribution,
yes.
Power is mostly lost. At Gibis, there was 376,000 homes losing electricity. And then you have this famous picture of New York that I put up there, where 1/4 of New York City was had power cuts because of Sandy. So there is direct damage to the power line and to the substation with floods and wind speed.
Yeah, New York into the black. Incredible. We see infrastructure as well are very impacted, so the economic sectors, but Maxime, we belong to the insurance sector. What can you say about the impact on the insurance sector?
Yes, just before I start, François, I just wanted to tell the assembly that you can ask your questions on the chat beside the video. So as you know, the insurance sector is exposed to all other sectors because it covers everything. And especially, well, when there is tropical cyclone, it's impacted everywhere. So in the example of Harvey, Irma, and Maria hurricanes in 2017, which affected the US, there were losses reported of $225 billion. And out of this figure, around $90 billion were insured losses.
So you show us 2 things by the figures. The first question I want to ask you is, where is the difference between 90 and 225? Where is the difference?
Well, insurance gap.
Insurance gap.
Yes. It's also a role to try to lower this gap.
Insurance gap are people that are not insured at all.
Yes, or maybe sometimes you can have exclusions within the property policies for NatCats, for hurricanes, or there are also sectors which kind of don't think that they can be impacted by such events. Because when you think about tropical cyclone, what do you think about? You think about property, but you don't think about the interruption of your business due to such events. So some people might not be aware that tropical cyclones have a huge impact on the whole industry.
So the people that are not covered by insurance program, they are basically covered by their own money, and where the insurance industry is affected by all the payment. What does it mean? What are the connection with the existing policy? What is the attitude of insurers and reinsurers towards tropical cyclones?
Yes, so as Christelle rightly mentioned, the risk is increasing for 2 reasons. The first one is hazard due to climate change, intensity of such events increase, and the second one is exposure. You know, cities are growing, developing, especially on coastlines, which means that people are increasingly exposed.
Yes.
And for these 2 reasons, the risk is increasing. So what is the reaction of the insurance industry? Well, most of the time we can kind of see a retreat, insurers pulling out of such risks because there is too much accumulation, they are too highly exposed in some areas. The example of Australia near Hamilton Island, we see many insurers putting exclusions on such risks and even retreating from property insurance.
Lower capacity is the best chance, and the bad chance is retreat purely.
Yes.
So not cover anymore.
Yes, exactly. Or maybe sometimes they can increase deductibles or increase premiums to make them unaffordable for the client. So I mean, there are many kinds of reactions which kind of always show that they want to retreat from such risks.
Very clear, very clear. So what about parametric insurance? Is parametric insurance a solution for tropical cyclone cover?
Yes, it is. It's a great alternative to traditional insurance, actually. So just before I enter into the benefits of parametric insurance, let me introduce you to the concept.
For sure, make it clear.
Okay, so we have the first product, which is actually the flagship product for tropical cyclone parametric. That is called Cat in a Circle. So you will understand the name quite soon.
Yes.
We select a location of the client.
So the point is here, it's my location. So
yes.
I'm a hotel resort and this is my location. Okay.
Exactly, exactly. We draw a circle around this location, or maybe two circles.
Let's draw a circle. Okay.
Yeah. So for example, 50 kilometers, 100 kilometers. And then during the course of the policy, we track the cyclones, the tropical cyclones. And if a cyclone enters one of those circles,
so let's see the cyclone here. Yes. Okay.
The payout is automatically triggered.
Automatically triggered.
Yes. Because here, so the track entered the circle and it was a category 4. So if you have a look at the table, this is the payout the client is entitled to according to the category of the cyclone and the circle. Because, I mean, both parameters have a huge impact on what the actual damage at a specific location will be. So in this example, we have a category 4 tropical cyclone entering the 50-kilometer circle. So the client is entitled to 75%
this one,
payout.
You mean this one is crossing the big cycle. Is this table, the table you mentioned, how do we design this table? Is it part of the contract, of the insurance contract?
Yes, so everything is written beforehand in the contract to make it very transparent and very understandable by the client. And this is built along with the client or with the broker. We really try to understand what the exposure of the client is. Is it like, for example, a category 2 within 100 kilometers of the coast, which means that actually the client is very exposed? Or is it category 5 within a restricted zone? So it really depends on the client's activities, on his sensitivity to such risks. And we really enter into discussions with this client to build this table.
Very clear. I see your point with starting by one location, but I am a T&D operator in the Bahamas. How can I use your concept? Because my island is not a cycle. How can I use your concept? I have many different locations, or let's say I'm a gas station operator. How do I do?
Yeah, so we have another product for that. Because obviously one point does not reflect the risk of many kinds of activities, such as T&D, as you mentioned. So for those kinds of clients, we have what is called a cat in a polygon product. So here in the example of a client located in the Bahamas, we draw an area which follows the coastlines.
Like this, you follow the coastlines, like this area. Okay.
Exactly.
Very clear.
Yeah. So the client is exposed here to the red area represented.
Yes.
We draw a buffer of, here in the example, 50 kilometers. This figure can be changed. And if the cyclone enters this area with the buffer, the payout is automatically triggered. Same as before, we have a table showing, highlighting the percentage of payout according to the category of the cyclone.
That's very clear. That's very clear. Okay, so it can be very flexible if you have one location or if you have several locations it can be very flexible.
Yeah.
What about the data that we use? Crystal, you are a meteorologist, so you know all the data providers. So what do we use to see the intensity, to measure the intensity of the cyclones?
So we use national weather centers that are located in the area of the customer. So depending on whether the client is in Australia or in the Atlantic Basin or near Hong Kong, we have plenty of national weather centers that produce tropical cyclone tracks. This is a transparent way for us to use the data, and that is reliable for the customer, so they can check what's going on.
You mentioned the transparency. It's transparent. Is the data part of the contract also? Is the source of the data part of the contract?
Yes, it is very important. We have in the contract written down which data will be used and how it will be used.
And I can see here that it's public data. So we rely on public data that everyone can access. So the client, the insured can access to the data, as well as the insured, meaning AXA in this case,
exactly,
can all access to the data. Very clear, it's transparent. Maxime, if we come back on the insurance contract, can you give us some benefits of parametric insurance for tropical cyclone?
Yes, so we identified three main benefits of the parametric tropical cyclone product. The first one, which is actually the main benefit when we discuss with clients, is the speed.
Speed.
Fast recovery.
Wind speed? No, fast recovery. Yeah.
Payout speed. I mean, in the case of such events, which like destroy the property, which severely impact the business of the client, getting the cash quickly is key to be able to recover.
To be able to recover.
Yeah, I mean, there was a study showing that money coming a few hours or a few days after the event is like 10 times more valuable than money coming out like a few months after.
Yeah.
So this is really the key of parametric insurance, the main benefits, fast recovery. It's
fast because we see the data, we rely on the table that was written in the contract. So if the cyclone track the cycle or the polygon, then it will deliver the payout.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, Christelle showed you the data sources. So we just go to the website of these data sources and check the track of the cyclone. We map it with the circle and we pay out within a few days.
Very clear. Okay. Second benefit?
So we talked about it quite a lot already. Transparency. We say that everything was written in the contract, remember? The table, how much the client is entitled to according to the category of the cyclone. So there is no discussion about what the client will receive or will not receive. It's all written in the contract. So we won't waste time into litigation on what the amount of claim needs to be. And this brings me back to the first benefit, because what also makes like the payout linger is that there is discussion, there is litigation. With parametric insurance, there is none. It's all written in the contract.
Yes, loss adjusters, forensic lawyers, everyone are on the table to determine the correct indemnification. But here, the indemnification is provided by the table, and the insured losses and the track of the cyclone.
Yes.
Very clear. It goes fast. It's transparent. There is no litigation. Well, that's good news that's bad news for the lawyers, but that's a good news for the insured and the insurer.
Yeah.
And
yeah. So the third benefit is adjustability. We also discussed it when I showed you how we built the product.
Yeah.
We always go from the client's need. So our goal is really to understand what their exposure is, and we build the cat in a circle product or cat in a polygon product around this need. Yeah. We don't have like a product out of the shelf which we apply. It's really like understanding the client's needs and then applying the perfectly adapted product.
So it's not necessarily 50 kilometers for the radius. You can do every type of cycle, 10 kilometers to 100 kilometers.
Exactly.
And see, and we will determine. Of course, the price depends on all of those variability. premium.
Yes. So we have our team of data scientists and actuaries which compute the risk and the price according to what parameters we chose along with the client.
Let's go into a concrete example. I'm a hotel chain in Australia. What do you recommend me to buy?
Okay, so this is the application of a customer circle product for such clients. So I would recommend you to buy Parametric insurance for the 3 benefits we saw. We can cover your property damage for your hotel assets. And here, after discussion with you, we noticed that the best perfectly adapted product is to have 2 circles, one of 50 kilometers radius, one of 70 kilometers radius, and a payout from category 3, tropical cyclone. So here we selected a limit of liability of 20 million Australian dollars. And within all these parameters, you would have received $15 million after tropical cyclone Debbie in 2017.
The Debbie that were mentioned by Christelle previously.
Yes.
Very clear. So here I cover my physical damages, but my traditional insurance company doesn't want to insure BI anymore because of exclusion. It's one of the new exclusion. Can you do that?
Yes, we can also do that. We can cover BI only. So in the next example, we have an airport in Taiwan that wants to get covered against typhoons which impede their business, because when there is a typhoon, obviously no plane takes off. And in that case, I mean, it's exactly the same concept, exactly the same product. We just change the parameters. So the circles, here we have 50 and 100 kilometers, because the airport is likely more exposed to typhoons. And the limit of liability that time reflects the loss due to business interruption and not the property damage.
Okay, so in fact, I give you the limit of, it's very flexible. I can give you a limit of indemnity based on my property, based on my asset, or based on my BI. I calculate my BI to, in this example, 10 million, the maximum, and you can provide me a cover based on that.
Exactly.
Okay, very clear. So, and no loss adjustment.
No, same thing, no loss adjustments. A few days after the cyclone, the airport received their payout very fast, so they can recover and pursue business in a smooth way.
Quick payout, and we don't fight each other to measure how big are my BI. I decided to cover 10 million of BI, and you can cover 10 million of BI.
Exactly.
Okay, because BI, the determination, the calculation of BI is always something very difficult.
Always tricky.
Always tricky. You have to prove many things. So if do I necessarily need to cancel my existing insurance policy to have a new parametric policy, or can I do a mix? How do you see the parametric insurance going into the traditional property market?
Yes, so there are 3 options of articulation between the traditional cover and the parametric cover.
So we can articulate, that's good news.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, of course. I mean, we don't mean like to replace the whole traditional insurance industry. We just here like to complete the insurance gaps and make also people benefit more from the speed, payout, transparency, and adjustability of parametric insurance.
Okay. So let's start by the first one. You recommend me to replace my traditional policy?
Yes. So maybe not fully. Sometimes we have clients who have a lot of assets under the parametric program.
Okay.
We advise them sometimes to carve out a few locations and insure them fully 100%. So property damage and business interruption on a parametric basis. So these locations most of the time are the most critical ones, the ones that need a fast payout, and this is why we select them to put them within a parametric policy.
So I have my property program and I design a kind of parametric bubble for the sensitive assets that are sensitive to tropical cyclones, where the area that Christelle shows us around the world. and I put them in a traditional, in a parametric policy?
Yes, so very concretely, we have a standalone parametric policy covering these assets for tropical cyclone, and within the traditional policies for these assets, there will be an exclusion for tropical cyclone because they will be covered by the parametric policy, which will mean decreased premium for the traditional program and additional premium for the parametric.
Okay, clear. Do I necessarily need to have AXA XL on my property program?
No, you don't.
No, I can have any type of insurance company for my property program,
yes.
And I use AXA Climate for my parametric program.
Yes, actually we already have a few cases where we did a carve-out of a program which was not led by AXA XL, but we covered 100% of the carved-out assets.
Very clear, very clear. My point today is that my insurance company doesn't want to cover BI, and I have particularly an issue with NDBI. I have no damage, but and I cannot be covered. Can you do that?
Yes, of course. Actually, this is a case which happens pretty often with what we mentioned, insurers retreating from the market, especially for BI. And here we can do a standalone parametric policy for business interruption only, which means that the property damage will be covered by the traditional policy, and business interruption by the parametric policy. And this is a pretty good fit because actually for business interruption, most of the time you need a very fast payout because the key to recovering efficiently is to have a quick payout, to have a smooth business continuity.
Okay, very clear. So, and again, for this case, I don't necessarily need to be covered by AXA XL on my property program. It can be any kind of other insurance company. And if I don't have PI cover inside this property program, I can manage with you to have PI cover on parametric.
Yes.
Okay. My problem now is more on my deductible because due to the tropical cyclone intensity and frequency increasing in the world, my insurance company has increased the deductible. Can I transfer you the deductible?
Yes. So we can do a deductible buydown, which means that we will cover a lower layer compared to the traditional policy on a parametric basis. And same thing, the payout will not represent like the whole property damage, of course, because it's only a small layer of deductible, but it will enable a fast payout so that the client has emergency cash to recover more properly. We just need to watch out for regulation for deductibles because, of course, there are some countries which require a minimum deductible. And there is also a restriction there. We cannot do a buy-down deductible for property programs led by AXA XL. This is just like some internal regulation.
Okay, very clear. But it can be a deductible of 5 million or 10 million. I mean, it's adjustable to the limit of the deductible I have in my property program.
Yes, totally adjustable.
Very clear. It links me to ask you about the capacities that you have in the. We see here we see here various basins. Is that correct, Christelle? It's the tropical cyclone basin.
Exactly. Yeah, we've separated the risk between those basins as the risks are most not correlated.
Okay, it means that there is no correlation possible, accumulation possible between East Pacific and East Atlantic.
Exactly.
Okay, clear. And Maxime, based on the definition of those basins, what can you provide of capacities?
Yes, so we have limited exposure within each basin. It's yearly renewable, of course. We have around $60 million per basin. And I mean, this figure might change, actually. We plan an increase in the next year or so. But for 2020, we have $60 million for each of them. There are some basins which are obviously more demanding and ask for more insurance. So in the East Atlantic Basin, we already have filled a lot of that $60 million capacity. So it's also, I mean, the clients and the workers need to be rather fast to be able to get some capacity. And for the others, we still have quite a lot of capacity available. I wanted to mention the South Pacific Basin, for which we, out of this $60 million, we have $30 million US remaining.
Very clear, Maxime. Thank you. But another question: is AXA Climate the risk carrier, or you are not the risk carrier? AXA Climate is the MGA.
Yes.
So who is the risk carrier?
The risk carrier is AXA. So various branches, depending on in what country the risk is located.
Yeah.
But us, as AXA Climate, act as advisors. So we structure the products, we discuss with the brokers, with the clients, we build the product, we induce the premium, and we structure, we create the policy, and everything is underwritten by the local AXA XL branches.
Very clear. So you are a kind of internal factory of parametric cover, and AXA XL is the risk carrier. So at the end of the day, the contract, the insurance contract is written by AXA XL, and the client signed an AXA XL contract.
Yes,
okay.
The policy is fully AXA XL.
Designed by AXA Climate.
Exactly. The strategy of AXA and AXA XL is to have a center of expertise for parametric insurance. That's why we have in the team meteorologists, such as Christelle, we have economists, data scientists, all kinds of backgrounds to be able to better understand the risk and do a more accurate products and quotations.
That's very clear. We can now move to some questions from the audience. I see that there is one question. We spoke about the deductible buydown, but is inside the parametric insurance, do you have a deductible inside the parametric insurance?
No, actually the deductible is represented by the category of the cyclone and the circle, which means that when we say that we start paying out from category 3, it means that actually what plays the role of deductible is category 1 and category 2 hurricanes.
Okay, if Cat 1 and if a cyclone of Cat 1 and Cat 2 go through my locations, I will not be covered in this case.
Yes, when it's not in the table.
Okay.
So there is no financial deductible.
Okay, Christelle, Cat 1 and Cat 3, what does that mean to my asset? Is it some? Do you advise me this deductible?
Yes, indeed, like those category 1 hurricanes, most of the time, even though they produce heavy rain, sometimes the wind speed might not affect your assets. So category 1 to 3 up to 3, a lot of times businesses are already prepared to sustain those kind of winds.
Okay, so Cat 3 could be a good starting point, and of course 4 and 5.
Yes.
But Cat 3 is more and more frequent. So I perhaps have to look at my historical data. If Cat 4 is how do I resist to Cat 3, and if Cat 4 is a good deductible. Very clear. It's the deductible is based on the intensity of the cyclone. Do you have some another question from the audience is, do you have an exclusion? Do you have some exclusions?
So the goal of parametric insurance is actually to fill the gaps, to fill the exclusions left by traditional insurance. Yeah. So we do not have any exclusion for tropical cyclone risk, because this is a single peril. So we only cover tropical cyclone, obviously. And we can act in all countries basically affected by tropical cyclone. So there is no exclusion.
Okay. I think we have a question from a broker. What do you need to quote to start the quoting process? And where are you based? How do I contact you?
Okay, so for your second question, where are we based? Well, the answer is almost everywhere. We have 4 office locations, one in Paris, one in London, one in Shanghai, and one in Singapore. But we also rely on a widespread network of local champions. So people from the AXA XL network who promote, understand, and are able to pitch parametric insurance to brokers and clients.
Okay.
So brokers can approach these champions. The list is within the website climate.axa. and the champions will liaise with us, and we will be able to start the discussions.
So website climate.axa, and also your own email address, maxime.zorbe@axa.com.
Yes.
And what do I need to provide you?
So this is also an advantage of parametric insurance we did not discuss. We do not need much information. We obviously need the location of the client, whether they want a circle or a cat in a polygon product. We need the sum insured, the limit of liability.
Sum insured, yes.
Yeah. And if they have them, the historical losses.
Historical losses. Okay.
It enables us to fit the structure with their past experience. And the last thing we need is the risk period. So
the risk period.
Yeah.
And when can I contact you to design this? Previous to the risk period, I believe, or after the risk period, but not during the risk period.
Yeah. So we require at least 2 weeks time before the beginning of the risk period. So, for instance, if a client wants to get covered for the whole year, so from January to end of December in Asia, let's say, then we will have to sign the policy before the 15th of December because it starts on the 1st of January.
Okay. Okay. So if I want a cover, I need to do it quick because I end in December.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or we can also restrict the risk period. So we know that in Asia there is a lower risk of typhoons. Christelle, tell me if I'm wrong, because I'm not an expert, but between January and April, cyclones are more rare. So if the client agrees to start the policy at the beginning of April, then we can wait until the 15th of March to sign it.
That's important what you say. You are not a meteorologist expert, you are a data scientist. So the two of us, Christelle, when Maxime rely on data, you rely on the explication of the phenomena. You work together to understand the phenomena and how, and yes, sometimes Maxime doesn't understand the data, but you can help him.
You mostly understand all the data, but indeed we work hand by hand, and we do build contracts together. So it's the most accurate possible.
And what kind of data will use Maxime to understand the phenomena and calculate the premium?
So we have historical tracks and stochastic tracks that allows us to understand the return periods, and now it's maybe getting technical, of different wind speeds for those tropical cyclones.
Mm-hmm. Can you indicate a very non-binding price? Can you indicate, can you give us an idea of what could be a premium?
So once again, it really depends on the location and on the table of payouts on the circle. Obviously, a payout triggering from category 2 within a 100-kilometer circle will be more expensive than the one triggering in category 4 within a 30-kilometer circle. That being said, we aim at premiums around 4% to 5% rate on lines. Of course, we can go lower, we can go higher, but this is what clients ask for mostly.
How do you, another question, how do you understand the client's vulnerability to a tropical cyclone? Only on historical losses, or can you figure out with the phenomena and the data, the real vulnerability of the client?
So from a statistical point of view first, we rely on historical losses and on proxies also. I mean, most of the time the client doesn't have past experience, historical losses, but we can rely on the data we have around the client, or at least in the location. We can say that, yeah, for that kind of asset, for example, if it's a TNT business, for TNT business in the Bahamas, we know that the vulnerability is like within that client. So we structure the product accordingly. And then, of course, we adjust it according to the client's needs. But yeah, we mostly rely on their data and proxies.
can you help Christelle, Maxime, to understand the wind, the tropical cyclone and the wind phenomena of different assets to modelize this?
Yes, so for the wind speed, we do have all sorts of stochastic and historical data, as I mentioned, and also on the vulnerability, we rely on engineering studies and publication if we don't have the historical losses, so that helps us structure something that is in line with the client's needs.
Do you use satellite data to understand, previous to the subscription of the contract, to understand the risk and the location? Because in fact, you never go to, we mentioned it during the claim process, we don't send loss adjusters, but previous to the writing process, we don't look at the physical asset. We never do a prior subscription visit.
No, we have to look at how close to the beachfront the location is. There are certain metrics that helps us understand the vulnerability of the sites. So sometimes you can rely on satellite imageries, but not always.
Very, very clear. So what about the payout for a large event? Do you think the payout will be even in higher or lower than if we cover the same assets on an indemnity base? Do you think that the parametric payment is bigger or lower than indemnity-based insurance program?
So it really, once again, depends on the structure that is chosen by the client, but I don't think they are very comparable because parametric insurance brings very, very fast payouts, and it mostly depends on the limit of liability. Which means that for traditional insurance, for instance, I mean, the limit of liability obviously is the maximum possible loss. So when you take the premium rate out of this maximum possible loss, it can be very low, but actually it will never pay like up to the maximum possible loss. Within the parametric insurance policy, what we call the limit of liability is actually I mean, it can be reached quite often. If we say that we pay 100% of the limit of liability for category 5 cyclone within 50 kilometers of the location, then it means we pay 100% of the limit of liability. So the payout is, maximum payout is very easily reached.
Would you say that for a traditional market, you try to negotiate the higher limit, and because the market was very soft, you can negotiate a very high limit? And on parametric insurance, you negotiate the most accurate limit.
Yes.
When you say that,
yes,
that it's parametric means accuracy and traditional means high limit, the higher limit you can negotiate.
Yeah, I mean this is also why parametric insurance is booming in this hardening property market. It's because for traditional insurance, limits are very high and capacity is becoming expensive.
Okay.
But for parametric insurance, limit is lower, so there is less capacity to put. So that's why capacity is made cheaper.
Very clear. I see the time running, and we can talk about tropical cyclone and parametric insurance for days. Let me ask you two more questions. Can you offer this parametric cover through a reinsurance scheme and not a direct insurance scheme?
Yes, yes. So we have examples within our portfolio of reinsurance programs. So it can be treaty or facultative with the cat inner circle product at the core of it. Yeah. So there are two possible things. Either the insurer issues himself cat inner circle products and we reinsure within the same frame, the same product, or the insurer can issue traditional products and we insure him within a parametric policy.
Very clear, very clear. About the losses, is only a first-party losses that you cover, or can it include third-party losses, third-party claims?
Yeah, it can also include third-party claims. Obviously, it doesn't need to be the insurance assets which are insured. I take the example of a supplier whom the client really depends on. If the supplier is impacted by tropical cyclone, there will be a huge loss of business for the client. So we can cover him for this business interruption due to tropical cyclone at the place of the supplier.
Very clear. Last question, because I see the time running, and unfortunately we need to close this webinar in a few minutes. But it's an important question about the data. If the data are poor, does it mean that the insurance, the parametric insurance, is not suitable?
So it is the case for some risks. So if we cover temperature, for instance, in the middle of Asia where there is totally no weather station, it can be a problem. But for tropical cyclone, it's totally not a problem because we have, the data sources Christelle talked about is very reliable. It depends on satellite imagery, which covers the whole globe. So we have very accurate data for tropical cyclone. It's not an issue.
Yeah, it's very clear. It's not an issue of because you have the data are very public. There is no issue of having poor data on this type of cover. But what you mentioned is clear for other type of parametric insurance. If you have no data, of course, it's an issue, particularly on temperature, hail insurance. Frost insurance, if you have no data, it's difficult to write frost insurance if you have no data. Okay, so thank you, Christelle and Maxime, and thanks to all of the people that joined us today. If you want to keep us a connection with us, you can get in touch with myself, François Lanavel, or Maxime. If you have questions to Maxime, you have the email address here, maxime.deroube@axa.com. If you want to engage a discussion with Christelle about how the NatCat modeling and the phenomena, how the climate change will impact the intensity and frequency of tropical cyclones, of course, Christelle Castet is there, and you can find the regional contact of AXA Climate at www.climate.axa and explore our pages. Thank you for joining us to this webinar, and we see you in the future for another topic. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.